found the shooting had died down, he and Rachel had finally gotten some time alone. She had been there the night before when Jack got into a conversation with the police chief. He'd been thanking Jack yet again for sparing his department the grief of losing Joe Boyd, and he offered to pay for any counseling services Jack might need to help him cope with the trauma he'd experienced. The chief said it was fairly common for officers who'd taken a life, even when the killing was justified, to struggle with guilt, anxiety, and other emotional problems, sometimes for weeks and months after. Symptoms similar to PTSD. He offered Jack the same help he'd give any of his police officers. Jack thanked him and said he'd gladly accept the offer if he started experiencing any of the things the chief had mentioned. In that first conversation with Rachel, she had brought up the police chief's offer. "What do you think, Jack?" Rachel had said. "Maybe you should do that." "Do what, visit the department's shrink?" "Well, yeah. Killing somebody's a pretty traumatic thing, even if it meant saving someone's life. We really haven't talked about it since it happened. You seem okay, but maybe you should get some help before any trouble sets in." Jack thought about it a moment. Did he really need professional help with this? He didn't want to seem stubborn. "I really feel like I'm okay, Rachel. Seriously. I had a hard time sleeping that first night, but I think it was just all the adrenaline in my system. After that, I've been sleeping fine." "What about during the day? Does it ever bother you? Ever see the scenes of that night replaying over and over in your head? Ever feel depressed about it?" Jack stopped and took inventory. He came up empty. "I don't know, Rach. Maybe I should be feeling more than I am, but honestly, I'm not struggling with what I did. I'm not glad I killed someone, but you know what happened. The guy was a psychopath. If I hadn't shot him, he'd have killed Joe. I just saw him kill the guy he hired to kidnap you a few minutes before. Speaking of that, how are you doing about all this? You were kidnapped. Maybe you should get some help." "Maybe I should. It was pretty scary, but I could tell when I was with the kidnapper he wasn't a killer. He just did what he did to get you to cooperate. And I knew you would do what he said, so I really wasn't ever in mortal danger." "Felt that way to me," Jack said. "But hey, listen. I will seriously consider the chief's offer. If I start having problems, even if you see something that bothers you about the way I'm acting, I'll get help. You promise?" He'd nodded, then leaned forward and gave her a kiss. That conversation had taken place over a year ago. Jack never did pursue the help the police chief had offered because he'd never experienced any of the symptoms he'd been warned about. He did wind up meeting once with his pastor to talk these things over, even asked the pastor if there was something wrong with him for not struggling about what he'd done. After hearing him out, the pastor said no. The commandment that says thou shalt not kill was talking about murdering someone. What Jack had done stopped a murder from happening. In his opinion, Jack had nothing to be sorry about. No more than a soldier should apologize for shooting a jihadist about to commit a terrorist act. His office buzzer sounded off again, jolting Jack back to the present. "Yes, Judy?" "Sergeant Boyd is here to see you, sir." "Great. Send him right in." Chapter 2. The door opened, and Joe walked in. Jack got up from his desk and extended his hand. "Hey, Joe, nice to see you. Been what, 6 months?" Joe shook his hand, but he wasn't looking at Jack. His head was on a swivel, giving Jack's office the once-over. "Well, look at you here, spending all day in a place like this, compared to my little hole in the wall." "You haven't been here before?" "Out to the college, yeah. But I never been in here. Pretty swank." "Have a seat," Jack said. "That chair's pretty comfortable, too. Course, none of the stuff is mine. Comes with the job." "So, Professor, how are you doing? You're an old married man now, right? Been just over..."